Welcome to the Inside Syracuse Basketball Podcast. I'm Mike Waters. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by former Syracuse basketball player Mookie Jones. We talked about Mookie's new role as a head coach and athletic director at a Syracuse City high school and how he uses his past troubles when talking to his current players. Well, welcome back to another edition of the Inside Syracuse Basketball Podcast. Today's guest is Mookie Jones, and he's filling me in on some stories I wasn't even aware of. So we're going to have a good time today, I can tell you. Mookie, it's great to see you. How you doing?
You too, brother. Great to see you. Everything is good. I'm just blessed to be here.
Well, I get it, and it's great to have you. And, you know, as soon as I saw you, I went to the opening night of the Elite Basketball League about a week or two ago. First night at the gym up at St. Joseph's Church here in Camillus, New York. And out there on the court, I see the usual suspects, the guys I expected to see. I see Symir Torrance, playing at Syracuse. He's going to transfer to Binghamton. I see Trevor Rowe, young kid out of Fayetteville Manlius High School, son of Matt Rowe. See all these kids. And then I see this guy. I see a familiar face out there on the floor, and it's Mookie Jones.
Yes.
Yeah, out there playing with guys.
Some young, talented guys.
Yeah, 10 or 12 years younger than you, at least.
Yep.
Why are you still out there running up and down with these guys?
Well, I tell you this, over the years, especially, getting older, up there in age, the stomach is getting so much bigger. And I hate to work out, and anybody on that Syracuse staff, when I was playing would know I hated the weight room, but I love playing. So, it's the easiest way for me to stay in shape, especially with wearing so many hats. It's definitely an easy way for me to keep the stress off. It's a peaceful thing, and you get to be with the youth. I get to run around with these guys and try to keep up with them. More so than me dominating. I'm trying to keep up with them and kind of just a good challenge to see where I'm at, as far as how can I keep up with these guys and just challenge myself in a way to just see. I'm looking for the next young guy to give me 40 points every night, and it's scary. You get scary because these guys are so talented. So it just drives me to keep going. It's a way to stay involved in basketball. Obviously, I can't play the NBA. It's no more college. Definitely overseas thing is out of the question. So this is my peace and my freedom and my way to get back to the game and stay involved.
Your game was a little bit different. You were inside a little more. You were using your size, but when you stepped out on occasion at that 3-point line, I tell you what, the jumper looked the same. The form,
it ain't going in. It's not going in no more. Had some big shots that night. It didn't go in, so I'd rather pass it.
Folks, he's being modest. The jumper still goes in. It's still pure. Okay. Let's set the record straight. The jumper, the form is still what we saw at Syracuse when you were there from 2008 to 2012. So
thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
You're out there with these young guys. You're working with young guys now. You're coaching at the high school level here in the city of Syracuse. You just finished your first year ever as a head coach at OnTECH.
Yes. Yep.
What's it like being a coach, and especially coaching at the high school level for you?
I've been at this thing for a while now. So, I had some experience to be around some great head coaches, and obviously, under the legendary Jim Boeheim, playing for him and being around so many other coaches. It's just a way to get back to the game. So it's a learning experience. This is a whole different generation. Every day you have to adapt to these guys and kind of get with their program more than, kind of just doing everything that you expect, your expectations for them. You kind of meet them halfway. So it's just never a dull moment for me. And just to see just the growth and the potential in it, I just love it. It's bigger than basketball, as I like to say. Most coaches I know, it's about the career wins and winning state titles and stuff like that, things that we're all familiar with. But for me, it's a brotherhood. For those couple hours, even if it's just a workout, for those couple hours, I know those guys are safe for me. They're not in the streets of Syracuse. And they're having fun and they enjoy it and they love it, and they love it. And so it keeps me young. It keeps me going. It just keeps me motivated, keeps everyone motivated, and it's positive. So, It's been a overall great experience. But I started this thing back in so OnTECH Charter is a brand new school on the west side of Syracuse. It's only been open for 5 years. So when I walked into this program, it was only open for 2 years. So I walked in the second year that it was open. We only had 2 grades. There was no basketball program. So we actually started back in 2014, 15 with just 6 or 7 games. And every year we try to increase the games and build a team from there. We got hit with COVID for those 2 years. So we got a big setback on that. But that last year was a big stepping stone experience for us to get some more playing experience and get some great high school teams out in the area. And then over this year on the athletic director side, I've been just working and trying to establish this program. I was able to get us into the OHSL League, where next year we'll be fully in and looking to make a run for a state title. And we have not just basketball, we have other programs going as well, as far as girls volleyball now, both JV and boys basketball. Varsity basketball. I coach both. So it's been challenging, but again, it's been a great experience. It's an amazing opportunity to walk into something and build it from scratch and kind of, make it into your own and build a culture here, so it's been amazing.
And we talk about building this program. Like you said, you had the interruption of COVID, which can really kneecap a program that's just getting started. This past year was just the first time the school fielded a full varsity squad, right? You had varsity guys.
Yes, sir. This the first, the first official year for varsity, and a lot of those young guys that's come into this program that playing at the JV level kind of phase into that varsity setting. So these guys are already familiar with each other. Already got the chemistry. We're a smaller school, so we'll be Class D. We lost a lot of games by 60, 70, sometimes 50. But if you look at, how we're playing on the court, you wouldn't notice. You would think it's a tie game, the way the guys went out there and compete and gave it their all. And then when I looked at the schedule, I realized that all the games that we play, all the teams that we played were Class A teams. And next year we're going to be in the Class D schedule. So of course we're getting blown out by, 40 to 50. So I can't wait next year to see how we do in the correct class that we're supposed to be in. So.
How do you keep the young kids' spirits up and keep them in the program when you're losing just about every game and you're losing it by a wide margin? It's got to be hard for a kid.
Oh, it's tough, but it's tough for both of us because it's not the basketball that I know and I'm familiar with, but it's being realistic with them. It didn't start off the best, very long talks. I can tell you this. There's times where we're supposed to be practicing for 2 hours, but instead of practicing, I'm talking for 2 hours because it's definitely important. And I always say all the time, the guys that don't want to hear it, you probably won't be here long. I'm just being honest. And anything I preach on the basketball court goes into the reality of real life. It's just how it is. You have to commit to something. You have to be willing to work at something. You have to be willing to fail. And everything is not going to just happen in a day. Nothing happens in just a day. It's a process. So, again, talking about is one thing. I wish I can have a visual for people to see. I shed many tears with my guys. So being vulnerable, crying, and not just crying because losing or because we want something right. When these guys are doing something mid-game, when these guys are gelling at the right times and doing the right thing, I'm in tears because of just the process and just the commitment and just how beautiful it is when they come together and make it happen. So when these guys see that out of their coach and a guy that's well respected in the area or in the game of basketball, they know it's serious and they want to give it back to me because they know I'm giving them 110%. They know the sacrifices I'm making. They know that there's sleepless nights. I know that for them to be student athletes, how tough it is on them, for them to go in their environments every day where there's not much motivation. So it's just a true brotherhood, man, and we're just a family. They crack jokes on me 24/7, and I take it, and I give it back. And, that kind of breaks the ice. And when kids are comfortable, when kids know that they have someone in their corner, regardless if it's on the court or off the court, they'll run through a wall for you. So it makes my job much easier. These guys are coming to play and they know what the expectations are for not just them, but for all of us as a whole.
Is your role here not just as coach, but for some of these kids, are you also like the big brother, father figure, uncle figure, whatever it is? Are you having to fill that sort of role for some of these kids too?
Oh, for sure, especially at OnTECH, and that's just our overall community. People step up in many different ways. We're not just all right. I'm the dean. I'm the gym coach. You might see me be the gym coach. You know, life skills coach. We fill in everything for our kids to be successful. It's all about them. So we make all the sacrifices necessary. So yes, some days I'm uncle. Definitely, a lot of times I like to say I'm the big brother. I feel like I am watching my little brothers and sisters, as I like to tell them. They drive me crazy. Um, but that's what it's all about. You gotta give them all. These kids need it. It's not about me. It's not about no one else. It's about these kids, and we just want them to go far in their future. And we know that. Well, I know, firsthand that it comes from having the support. Just from Syracuse all the way down from Peekskill all the way up to the whole entire New York State. Without that support that I had, I couldn't be here with them, and I let them know that every day. So, my way of giving it back to the people who step forward for me is to do the same for these kids. So I'm there with them regardless if they choose to play basketball or not. I tell them all the time, once you enter my brotherhood, you're in there forever, for life. It's a forever thing.
You're at OnTech now and been building that program, but you got your start locally coaching at the high school level through a guy whose name's going to be known for Syracuse natives, Cornelius Vines.
Yes, sir.
He brought you in at Nottingham?
Yep. Well, no, well, at
And you,
Nottingham, that was Greg Jones at the time. And this was actually Greg Jones is a legend as well at Nottingham. I came in his last year, his retirement year. So again, that was I was Cornelius Vines was eventually he was there before I got there. Originally, he was there. Him and Coach Spates from Henniger, and they both left and went to Henniger to take over that program. So Lamar Kearse, another local legend, had kind of put me up to this opportunity, and I came in with some great coaches. Greg Jones, obviously, um, Mick Walker, my other brother from Westchester. It was a great coaching staff. So to kind of get my feet wet, to come in there and not expecting, I thought this coaching thing would happen when I was at the age that I'm at now. In my 30s. I was about, just freshly out of college. I just graduated, played overseas for a little bit. Um, so when I came back into opportunity, it just kind of set me forth into the role that I'm in now. And then after that, after leaving Nottingham that year, then the very next year, Reggie Pickard gave me and Cornelius Vines a huge opportunity to come to SAS to kind of help build that program. This is after Symir's. I said it's after Symir's last year before him going to prep school. We was hoping to have him and coach him. It would have been a great a great thing and such a sweet season. But I came there. I was there for the 2 years with Cornelius Vines, helped build that program, which he did a phenomenal job at. So that kind of set me into getting an opportunity to come to OnTECH as well. With all this experience, I had a special coaching job, being assistant to Cornelius Vines and Troy McGriff as well. On the JV level, would come in and work with both teams and help develop guys and develop the program.
as you coach these kids at the high school level, you can pull on a lot of different life experiences, even
Yep.
though your life to me, you're still so very young. But you have a lot of life experiences that you can
Yep.
lean back on and talk to these kids about. I mean, and some of them are
Mm-hmm.
great, like
Mm-hmm.
your opportunities, your high school recruiting, being recruited by
Yes.
big time programs, being able to go to Syracuse, but also you had you hit some roadblocks over the course of your career.
Yes,
I
sir.
don't know if you want to talk about maybe some of the main
Oh
ones
yeah. Yeah.
that have formed you and formed who you are as a person and a coach.
Yeah. Well, I have no problem speaking about those things because without those things, I couldn't be where I'm at. And especially being a high recruited player coming out of Peekskill, New York, winning 3 state championships in a row, you kind of can get lost into the to the antics of playing basketball. Um, and sometimes you kind of lose sight of what you're actually there for. And I can honestly say, coming into Syracuse, it was a lot of distractions. It was for me, I can't speak on everyone else, but I don't think I was mentally prepared at the time for that level. So now, for guys like me in those situations, and I look back at it, I think prep school would have been probably the best options for maturity wise, with responsibility of being able to know how to time management with making sure you're at your workouts, making sure you get your classwork done, your playtime, and those type of things, and taking care of your body. Those type of things go into it. But I didn't have that. I jumped right in. I jumped right into it, and it came with some learning, so a lot of learning curves. But the biggest thing for me was the support that was around me that I always appreciate Syracuse, my family, and fans for. A lot of times I did hit those roadblocks, but the most important thing is, I had to be the one to step forward and make the changes and walk the walk. But there was the people that pushed me that a lot of people didn't see. So when you have those experiences, that's just something that you never get away from. Those are actually it's honest like a cheat sheet. It's those are tools that people are giving you. And then again, it's to get yourself into a better situation, to get yourself out of these roadblocks, to become better as a person, as an individual. But it's most important that once you that and once you figure those things out, it's very important to get back to the next one. I remember Seth Brown, just a huge mentor of mine still to this day. I remember, being in his car and telling him at SU, said, one day I'm gonna pay you back. I'm gonna pay you back for what you've done for me. And his response, he stopped the car immediately, was like, hey man, you don't owe me nothing. If you want to pay me back, you make sure that what I'm doing for you and what others are doing for you, that you do it for the next ones coming up. So once he told me that, I mean, and just being positive and just always pushing forward, things just laid where they were supposed to go. When you stay positive and now, what's trouble, learning what your assets are and learning what your liabilities are, and eliminating those liabilities as much as possible. Just try to make all the right moves and make all the right plays. That's going to set you aside from the things that used to hold you back and kind of hinder your growth. It's amazing what it can do. It's amazing what it can do. And when I look back, I just can never get away from it. So I spend most of my life now speaking about that wherever I'm at. It doesn't be surprised. I probably speak more to adults about these things than I do with the kids.
Really?
And I'm involved with a lot of kids because life is a never ending learning process. And your past is something as your guide to what your future may be. A lot of people don't like to look back in the past, but that's just a huge thing for me because I went through a lot of things, and I don't agree with a lot of things. I don't think that a lot of those roadblocks were directly my fault, but I took ownership into the part that I did play in it.
Yeah.
I asked myself, why was you in it? Hold yourself accountable. Don't point the finger at nobody, and just fix it and move forward. And then when you do that, and there's no stopping anything that you want to do in life. And surrounding yourself with the right people. I have so many mentors and so many brothers and family and sisters that helped me along the way. I'll be here forever. And they know who they are, and it's a never ending process. I'm still meeting people that can motivate me and become a mentor to me. So when you allow yourself to do that, it's amazing on how much ground you can cover and to, become a successful.
You said that when you were first at SU, you were young. You really didn't take the academics seriously enough.
Right.
Your senior year, you end up getting dismissed from the school for an incident
Right.
that wasn't about academics. It was about a cyberbullying incident. And as I understand it, you and the young woman have made amends. Everything's
Yep.
okay on that front, right?
Yep. Yep.
But you're out of school,
Mm-hmm.
but you worked hard to get back in. And it's not
Yep.
listen. The school didn't just say, "Okay, come back after a certain time."
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about the process that you had to go through to get readmitted? And why did it mean so much for you to do it?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, like when you going through it, I remember, I'll never forget the day that you see me like you breaking up here. You see me? Still
Yeah,
got me?
you break up every once in a while, but I can hear you clearly.
Okay. Let me try to fix that. Okay. Um, yeah, so when you're going through that process, um, it gets very dark, and I explained this over a million times. And anyone in life that's going through something, it don't have to be just basketball. People know when it gets dark. When things hit rock bottom, you start to look in places that you shouldn't be looking. And I like to call it self-destruction, right? You got to almost self-destruct to build back up. And in those times, what comes into play, what's important is family. And like I said again, the people that you have around you. And God kind of bless you with some things. So during that process, man, it wasn't just one thing. For sure, one thing is definitely stay out of trouble. You don't want to cause more trouble on yourself. So once you figure that out, that's the first step. What am I doing myself? And a lot of those times, like I said, Cornelius Vines played a huge part in that. For us to be coaching together, we worked out together that whole summer. We worked out together that whole summer with a trainer. We played together, those type of things. Stay involved in basketball. Wendell Williams, another one who played, went to Herkimer, ended up making it to the NFL. These people start coming into your life. Your mom and dad, those family, like I said, those people that support you and keep you motivated and tell you, to keep going and keep pushing. That's the number one thing. But then the other steps that, what it takes to get in there, you have to show to school, what you're doing to become a better, that you learned your lesson too. They're not just gonna let you in because you sat out. They want to know what you've been doing. So on top of that, Nate Pena, who was another legend in this area that people may know or may not know about, but he runs a program called the Pass the Rock program. I think
right.
Stan Kinzel got me connected with this guy. And again, I didn't know Nate from a hole in the wall, and he immediately accepted me as a little brother, and he started putting me into things that I don't think he knew what he was doing for me, but he was more so again trying to serve the community that he serves, and bringing me into it, a local guy from Syracuse, you know what I'm saying, or a local guy from New York that's going through it, that can relate to these kids, and he started with just bringing me to schools to talk to kids. And if you remember at Syracuse, I wasn't so much of a big talker. Probably in the media every now and then, a little immaturity here and there, but not really comfortable with it. And
Yeah, I remember.
And yeah, taking me out of my comfort zone and putting me right in front of 50, 60 kids that's just looking to hear anything. Anything, or not expecting, who's this guy, not knowing of me, just knowing I played at Syracuse, and just speaking to them about making good choices, and talking about some of the mistakes I made, and some of the experiences I had. That went from one school to another school to another school after that, and then before you know it, he had me coaching T-ball. I was coaching T-ball with the young kids, so I was fine. And before I knew it, I forget that, I was suspended from Syracuse after a while, because this was a normal thing, going around and being involved with the community and showing my face in places that, maybe I wouldn't have been able to see if I didn't get myself in some of these roadblocks. So when you start doing those things and you start seeing the feedback, and just the excitement on kids and adults' face when you walk into a room, that kind of gives you a sense of purpose right there. So when you have that, that's one thing. I have two children at home that that needed me the most. So that was a big thing too. Is that hey, what are you gonna do with your life? You're suspended from school. You're just sitting around. It's good that I got to spend the time with my kids. Playing basketball, you don't get to spend much time. You see your kids, you're fully on. I'm there all summer, all year round. So you start to find those purposes right there. And I just remember during that time, again, arguments with my mom. My mom was getting tired of it. She was like, "You need to go get a job at Walmart in Peekskill." And I'm like, we're arguing, like, "Ma, I cannot work at no Walmart." And there's no disrespect to anyone who works those type of jobs at all. You got to do what you have to do. But for me, I just didn't feel like that was it. And I know sometimes it was, she see me just laying around and just,
was it because, I'm sorry to interrupt. Was it because you didn't want to be Mookie Jones, former, big recruit SU guy, being noticed by people at a job?
Oh yeah, that was it. But I already, the thing was, the sacrifices again. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but the sacrifices was already made. When I remember when I got suspended, I worked a job at Dick's Sporting Goods. I went to Kohl's first. I went to Kohl's for an interview. Not even just not knowing, but just trying to figure it out. I went to Kohl's and then I ended up working at Dick's Sporting Goods, doing the overnight shift. And the job I picked was to be, loading boxes in the back because I thought nobody would see me, you
Sure.
know. And when I not knowing, not having worked a real job before, when you working back there, I thought, hey, I'm still athletic, strong. Let me get all these things out the way, and I can just sit around till my shift is done. No, I believe my manager and supervisor was like, yeah, we'll walk around the store and get familiar with certain areas, and then that's when some fans would see me walking around Mookie Jones, and even my coworkers would thought it was some type of incentive or some type of punishment. I'm like, no, this is reality.
You're doing these jobs.
Yeah.
Before you were able to get some of these jobs, the stories have been
Mm-hmm.
written. My colleagues Donna DeTota and Lindsay Kramer have written some stories about you and the process you went through, the
Yep.
adversity you went through. At one point,
Mm-hmm.
before you were able to get readmitted back to Syracuse and before you were able to find jobs, you had to go through the process of applying for the food stamp program.
Yes, yes. And that
That's
was
the
and that
real,
that's the real deal.
yeah,
That's the real deal. And the thing is, that's what for me, I think the hard part was actually going there. It wasn't the fact that growing up wasn't easy. So I remember when food stamps was the size of my hand. And we had, it would be paper, so I was familiar with it. I grew up on that for a while coming up. So I was familiar with it. I didn't know, what it means back then. Um, to have food stamps and to have those services. When my mother's working, you think everything is just made, you think everything's so easy, but it's not so easy.
right.
And so, when you're playing basketball, you don't have those responsibilities. You kind of forget. You don't think about those type of things. But when you lose your scholarship, you don't have no money coming in. Obviously, I was evicted from my house. I couldn't pay my rent, my side of the rent. I had three other roommates. I couldn't pay my proportion of the rent. Things started getting tight. Things started getting tight, and that's what I said with family come into play because it was my family that kind of motivated me or more so insist that I apply for emergency food stamps. So, being walked through that process, I remember going to the heat program because the electricity bill had reached up to over $3,000 and it was in my name. So,
Oh,
my mom drove up. My mom drove up here and helped me go to the heat program. Who helped me downtown? That started with there, and then the food stamp process. She was like, "You have to go on your own. You gotta be there 8 in the morning. This and this." So I remember just standing in that line, and when you do it, you're kind of trembling, but once you're there, we call it, in my family, we have different things for it. We've been through so many things in life, and we like to call it the walk of shame. And you just got to face it. You got to face the adversity, and you walk through and you face it, knowing that you're going to overcome it. So, and again, when you got to do what you got to do, there's nothing wrong with it. It's really nothing wrong with it. But being a 18 or 20, 21, 22-year-old kid under 25 years old, it can kind of be it was kind of detrimental to me. So going through that process, and then when I finally got in that room and I had my my person to help me, um, everything was running smooth. And then eventually I was hit with this question. So I just seen you playing on TV the other day because I did play my last game at Providence. I had 12 points. Last game I knew it was my last game. Coaches knew it was my last game, and I had a great game. I had 12 points. I think that ended the game, whatever it was. So this lady had seen me play on TV. So everything was smooth. And then at the end, she was like, "Well, before I approve you for this, I would like to know, what happened." And I was like, I just don't want to talk about that right now. I was kind of thrown off. And she immediately, went into a whole nother zone and denied me and
oh,
said,
wow.
well, basically told me that she's not going to give me services unless I tell her. So I remember leaving out of there crying, crying, like, just frustrated, more from the process. Like, man, I done put myself out here and I get denied because I didn't want to tell my business. So that was hard. Call my father and call my stepmom at the time who was actually working for, she's actually was a supervisor down in Yonkers working with those type of things with government assistance. So
Oh,
she was able to make a call to another supervisor and kind of tell helped me, this process what was going on. And before we issued a new worker, caseworker, and that kind of started the process right there. And when I went through that process, they have another process where you get the food stamps, but you can also get an income, right? But you have to be there. You can't miss out. Then you have to apply to, I think it was like, I want to say 7, but it might have been 12 jobs you have to apply to. And you have to go and write them on paper, and you have to do paper applications. So
Okay.
that started the job process. So that helped out a little bit, getting that approved. Be able to eat. That took away from not being able to eat at night. So that helped for a while. And I believe I probably was on the government assistance for about 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
And it didn't take long to get me back on my feet.
That had to supply you with a lot of motivation
Oh yeah,
for when you got back into SU, or want to, first of all, to continue to try to get back into SU. And then
yeah.
once you did, to now take advantage of this second chance.
Oh yeah. I was ready to go. I was ready to go because things already had been working in my favor at that point.
Yeah.
Again, I had went. During Dick's Sporting Goods, I did about a month or so. My cousin calls me, and said, "Hey, do you still want to play basketball?" I said, "Yeah, of course." So he says, Glenn Grunwald, who was the GM of the New York Knicks, great friend, he said he's willing to give you a tryout. We were in talks with Allen Houston. We were really in talks with Allen Houston, who was actually running the G League at the time,
Okay.
for the Erie Bayhawks. So he said, they'll give you a tryout, come down, whatever the case is. I said, okay. So again, out of shape, 240, 260, whatever. I went down there, not knowing what the process was. When I say we played about 10 games that day, and I was doing so well at this open run that kids were coming over from another court, 3 courts down at Baruch College, I want to say, down the city, and was shaking my hand saying, "Hey, I know you're gonna make the team." That's how well I was doing. Right. I was taking charges, I was playing so well. And we had a break, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna give a break." And I think I might have, got a little injury inside. We went to, and I remember being drained. They said, "We're gonna take a break, and we're gonna cut it down to a top 20, and then we're gonna come back." And I'm like, "What? A top 20?" I'm already gassed. We come back, and they bring it down to the 20. Now things get serious. And what happened during that process, the guys that were there been through this before. So these guys, I've been playing all day, I didn't see no one dunk the ball, none of that. When we came down to top 20, those 20 guys, every guy was windmill dunking. It was a whole nother atmosphere. I thought they brought a whole new set of 20 in. 19 guys, because I was the 20th guy. I could not make not one shot. Even my teammates that were on my team, even the team that were on the defending side was like, "Come on, Mook, hit this shit." They were trying to get me going for this opportunity, but it just didn't work out. But guess who was there? Roosevelt Bowie was
Oh my
there.
God. Yeah.
And Roosevelt, and this is like I said, it goes from one thing to another one. You just keep pushing forward. You just never know how things is going to happen. I could have been like, "I'm not going. I don't want to do this." And then I probably wouldn't have seen all these opportunities to be where I'm at. This is why it's important to push through and take every avenue possible. And believe, and just believe in God and believe in yourself. And so from that, Roosevelt was telling me then, "I don't see why you won't make this team, but if you don't, I have an opportunity for you to go to Holland." Right. And so, it didn't work out. Obviously, I didn't play G League. I didn't play in the D League at the time. It was.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Holland with Roosevelt Bowie. I had a great experience out there. I was averaging 20 points in the first half. I was out of shape. I was, getting the wheels rolling, and I thought, you know, I was going to get Brandon Reese was out there with me as well, playing for another team. And we were talking with the China coach. I thought it was going to happen. I thought I was going to go to China. I thought, here's my breakthrough. And then it just never panned out. It never
Yeah.
panned out. So here we are, back to square one. I'm back at home again, watching my daughters again. I remember going in the city, and I tell the story all the time because it's very important to me. I was in the city. I went to work with my uncle. My mom, after the arguments with my mom, my uncle was going to help somebody, move in the city. So my mom said he needs to make some couple dollars. So I went with my uncle. That morning, Lawrence Moulton calls me. Lawrence called me that morning. I haven't spoke to Mo since since I was in college playing. And he said, hey, he's got a opportunity to coach the Ranger Sharks out in Rochester Ranger Sharks.
The
He
Premier
said he's
League.
building a team. Yep. Dame Miller was on that team. Dame wasn't expecting to play at the time. So Mo would say, hey, you can make some money. You'll play. You'll get this experience. I go out there. I end up making a team. I was told that this, I gotta say that league president was right because he said this might be your last opportunity playing, and he was actually right. That's the last time I actually played basketball. Let me just speed this story up. So boom, I make the team. Gracefully I made the team. Dame Miller joins. Another guy, Daley Coker from St. John's, joins the team. We had a great set of guys. Lawrence Morton brought some guys from Baltimore. We're having a great year. At some point of the season, I have an ankle injury. Playing against a Buffalo team, and I sit out for a little bit. So at the time, I'm all about trying to make my money, trying to make my opportunity. At the same time, I did the application process to get to Syracuse. So we're waiting that when I made this team, the same day I made this team, Syracuse called me the same day to say I was reinstated to come back to school to finish whenever I'm ready. So there goes my plan B if this basketball thing doesn't work out. So it was already set there. Okay, this doesn't work out. Towards the middle of the season, at practice, I'm in a shooting slump. I'm worried that I'm going to lose my job, playing because I'm not hitting any shots. The president's walking around with a check sheet. Jarice Crouch come in. I hit the next 2, 3 jumpers. I miss one. I go to rebound, pop my Achilles.
That'll do it.
So there we go. Now that's a whole nother process that I had to get through. So that process said, you know what, forget it. Enough is enough. I'm in there. I remember, my daughter's about between 5 and 8, and a little younger. My 2-year-old, she was 2 years old at the time. They don't have no recollection of how, daddy's hurt. They're playing on my boot. They're killing it. They're driving me crazy. I look at them, how beautiful they are, and I say, you know what? I'm gonna go back to school. I'm just gonna go back to school, and I'm gonna finish for them. And I already had a plan my whole life. If I don't make it to overseas, or if I'm not playing basketball at the end, I'm just going to go back to school. I'm going to do this. I even thought about going to the Army. I had to do something that had a purpose. I just knew that. So it just worked out the way it did. And then, going through that application process, the people who supported me with that, my cousin John and my father, I think my dad should talk about to this day. He was like, Kelly, God rest her soul. She was a secretary. And my father called her. She pushed him right through to Coach Behan. And from that, Coach Behan talked to Joe Fields, whoever he had to talk to. And these guys, before I know it, I was back on campus. And just my mindset, I can tell you this, I didn't know what to expect, but coming into school, I wasn't always a student at all. I wasn't the best student. You can ask my classmates, never seen me read a book ever. The best book I ever read in my life was Captain Underpants. If you know what that is, it's like a first grade reading level. There were like 2 or 3 books in my life, so I didn't have the education part. But when I tell you this, it's like when you get older, you get wiser. And that was my first experience of seeing that, because when I came back to school, I was taking back those classes that I maybe didn't finish, the incomplete classes or the classes that I failed.
Mm-hmm.
Religion class, a psychology class, I believe it was, a sociology class, I believe it was, or some science classes. And I tell you this, those classes that I took were key to my success, of getting back on my feet. Because that religion class that I took taught me a lot of other different things that we don't have to get into today, but it took me into a whole nother mindset of thinking and believing and praying, and a whole nother level of thinking. I was actually raising my hand in classes, and it was the same professor, and he was actually like, "Hey," and I went from maybe a F or a D to a C. I didn't get an A, but I got a C, and for me, that was good enough.
Sure.
For me, coming back into college, and again, reading Captain Underpants, and the only book that I had, as experience of a reading level of understanding. And then there was another class that was just, I want to say it was the psych class, and I think it was a great professor, and this class was like full of 300 kids, and I remember so much was about the courage, being courageous, those type of things. And it's crazy that, still to this day, I come up on binders of notes that I took in Syracuse. I was writing things out. I was writing all my flaws out. I was writing who I am as a person. Saying, killing myself, being the worst critic. Just saying the meanest things I could say to myself, saying the most positive things I could say to myself. It's still in the book, and one day I'll hand that book to kids so they can remember that. And that kind of
sounds like
fixed
a
my
completely
mindset.
different Mookie Jones than the one
It was
who
a different,
was a
different
freshman.
guy.
Yeah,
Because I knew one thing, Mike. If I knew that if I messed this one up, I was afraid that I may never get an opportunity again to get back on my feet or do something special. I was afraid to go back home and fall back into things that wouldn't lead me to where I am now. And I could say, being frightened by that, just kind of kept the laser focus right into it. And when all these things happen, people don't speak about it. When you're on a down, you get suspended. When you're such a high-rated player or whatever, or well-known person, when you have your downfall, a lot of people separate themselves from you. So it gets quiet, and you find out the people who really matter to you. And when those people that are not for you or is just there for the ride and they disappear, it's easier to focus. And then when you substitute those people in with people who want to be there, who want to help you, who want to see you succeed, it's like, it's like a new set of wings. So I had a whole new fresh air, to breathe again. It felt like,
yeah.
and from there, it just kept getting better and better. And still to this day, every year I always say, oh, this is going to end. It's going to end. In some way, you're just not knowing, but it just gets better and better. And my level of importance is getting higher. So I just take it serious and I just try to educate myself. I am reading books now. I'm up
Ah,
to 4 in the morning every night, listening to podcasts. I'm studying life. I'm fascinated with it and I love it, and it drives me insane to just want to learn more, and I do need to take a break at some point and cool down. But right now, I just can't. I got to keep the train moving forward. It's a beautiful
well,
thing.
I got to tell you, Moo, yours is a really incredible and inspiring story. A lot
Mm.
of people, need a second chance.
Mhm.
Sometimes when that second chance comes along, they don't take advantage of it. You obviously did.
Yeah.
And because of everything you've gone through and what you've done,
Mm.
I think the kids that you're working with at OnTECH are very, very lucky to have you around. And the Syracuse community should know what kind of guy they got with
Appreciate it.
Mookie Jones sticking around in the area. And that's why when I saw you playing Summer League ball the
Yeah.
other day, I knew right away. I said, I got to get Mookie on the podcast as soon as I can.
Gotcha.
Just because I think yours is such an inspiring story. So listen, thank you for coming on the podcast and
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 thank you,
and
Mike.
talking to everybody today, man. It's always so good to see you.
Not a problem. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you big time, man.
All right.
Thank you.